Hey, it's Janelle Waz, and welcome back to another Star Trek video. Happy Star Trek Day, everyone! That's right, it was today in 1966 that Star Trek premiered with The Man Trap, where Dr. McCoy finds out that his old girlfriend is a salt monster. But it was out of that episode that came a series that would turn into an entire franchise, complete with over 700 TV episodes from 1966 to 2005, spearheaded by 5 captains across those episodes. So, how would I rank those captains? Well, that's what I'm doing today. Now, I'm focusing on Star Trek up to 2005. I haven't watched much of the newer Star Trek shows outside of a few clips, so it wouldn't be fair for me to include the new shows in my ranking. Today, it's original series through Enterprise. Now, I want to be clear that I like each of the captains in this list, so if a captain is ranked a little low, it doesn't mean that I don't like them. It's just that I like the other captains a little bit more, and I would still encourage you to watch their show. But with that out of the way, let's boldly go where so many fans have gone before. The best is yet to come with my ranking of the Star Trek captains. But before I go any further, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I talk a lot about Star Trek, video games, and whatever else I feel like talking about. Be great to have you aboard.
Risk is our business. That's what the Starship is all about.
That's right, the man who started it all, Captain James T. Kirk. Now, there are 2 versions of Captain Kirk. There's Captain Kirk in the show, and there's Captain Kirk in the movies. Both are good, though for different reasons. The Captain Kirk in the show, heck, even the show itself, has a fun campiness to it. Sure, it can come across as a bit cheesy at times, but it's nevertheless fun. Indeed, we have plenty of Shatnering moments in the show, and say what you want about William Shatner's acting style, he brings a certain charisma that almost nobody could pull off. He can be serious and thought-provoking, a straight man when it's comedic, and, well, whatever this is. You can't deny that the man has a passion for what he's doing. But enough about William Shatner, what about the character himself? Well, there's plenty to love about Jim Kirk. In fact, the ladies of the galaxy really do. Besides the charisma, the guy is a great leader, constantly putting himself on the line for his crew and the ship. The man has both brains and brawn, outsmarting enemies with his cleverness and using less than subtle approaches. The guy literally risks life and limb for his ship and crew. And of course, we also see a caring side to Kirk, occasionally taking on a father figure or big brother role, though more so earlier in the show. He also has a close-knit friendship between Spock, his first officer and a Vulcan, and Dr. McCoy, his chief medical officer. And this friendship only grows during the movies. Speaking of which, I tend to prefer Captain Kirk in the movies more than the TV show. We get to see a more serious Kirk rather than the campy one we see on TV, which, don't get me wrong, has its place. Some of the most heartfelt scenes in the franchise were between Kirk and Spock in the movies, particularly Spock's death and funeral.
Of all the souls I have encountered in my travels, his was the most human.
While Kirk does rank a little low on my list, he is nevertheless an important part of Star Trek, and we wouldn't have the franchise we have today if it wasn't for Captain Kirk and the gravitas that William Shatner brought to the role.
I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
But I don't like bullies, and I don't like threats, and I don't like you.
Just sit right back and you'll hear the tale of a fateful trip. But this 3-hour tour landed Captain Janeway and the USS Voyager stranded 70,000 light years away from home in the Delta Quadrant.
They'll have to make the best of things. It's an uphill climb.
Next on my list is Captain Catherine Janeway of Star Trek Voyager. Voyager was initially sent to apprehend a fugitive Maquis ship commanded by Chakotay, but in order to survive, both crews combined for survival, and Janeway treats the Maquis crew members like any other member of her crew. the very fugitives she was sent to apprehend. Heck, she even made Chakotay her first officer. And honestly, I think the whole Maquis thing is something the show could have explored more, but we're talking about Captain Janeway here and how she treats her crew with respect. Because they're stranded, Janeway also had to be more available to her crew. In some ways, she became like a mother figure, providing support. And because apparently there isn't a counselor on board for some reason, and oh, if you mess with a mama bear and her cubs, it's your... Throughout the show, Janeway takes Kes and later 7 of 9 under her wing, helping Kes grow, who was still rather young and not just because she was 2 years old, and helping 7 of 9 rediscover her humanity after she left the Borg Collective. At the same time, Janeway's also a very human character. In being stranded in the Delta Quadrant, she effectively lost her fiancé Mark, and it's something that she thinks about a lot.
I know that someday I may have to accept that he's not part of my life anymore.
While I'm still mad that Mark moved on as quickly as he did, what I can appreciate is that Janeway bore no bitterness towards him. It was a tough situation for everyone. So while she was sad about losing her fiancé, she also understood the situation he was in. In many ways, Voyager was a show that I wish had gone in different directions, but under the guidance of Captain Janeway, it's still a pretty fun adventure to behold.
Somewhere along this journey, we'll find a way back.
We can't be afraid of the wind, Ensign. Take us to Warp 4.
Before Captain Kirk, there was Captain Archer. Or after Captain Kirk, there was Captain Archer. I mean, the show was a prequel. What do you expect? Coming in at number 3 is Captain Jonathan Archer from Star Trek Enterprise. Now, there are a couple of reasons why I like Captain Archer so much. For one thing, Scott Bakula is just so likable in the role. He has this casual tone that makes Archer come off like a regular guy, maybe a guy you'd bump into at the store. He just happens to be a Starfleet captain. He likes to watch sports. He has a cute doggy. He's also boldly going where nobody's gone before, even before Captain Kirk. I also like that Archer serves as a bridge between us and Captain Kirk's Star Trek. Archer still uses swear words, something that's been largely dropped by Kirk's time.
You have no idea how much I'm restraining myself from knocking you on your ass.
He has his prejudice against Vulcans, another thing mostly dropped by Kirk's time, except for McCoy. But he still shows that humanity has come a long way since our present. He has the spirit of adventure, exploring the galaxy with wide eyes. The universe is his oyster, and it's up to him to explore it. He really is taking his first steps into a larger world, a world that would become Captain Kirk's world. The other reason I like Captain Archer so much, and the big reason why I like Star Trek Enterprise in general, is how his relationship develops with T'Pol, his Vulcan first officer, mirroring the relationship between humans and Vulcans in the show. I know this was a big criticism people had of Enterprise when it first started to air, but if you really think about it, humans and Vulcans are two very different groups of people who had to learn to overcome their differences and learn to work with each other. In the case of Archer and T'Pol, Archer resented the Vulcans holding back his father's research for the warp drive. He had a spirit of adventure and wanted to go out into the galaxy and explore, but the Vulcans thought humans weren't ready, being susceptible to emotions.
Because there is one species you remind us of.
Vulcans.
T'Pol had her prejudices against humans in general, and could be a bit of a roadblock for Archer early in the show, even if it was to keep the crew safe. But by the end of the show, they've gone to bat for each other so many times and became great friends, overcoming their initial prejudices towards each other. It was a long road getting from there to here, but humans and Vulcans did eventually become good friends by Kirk's time. And also, Captain Archer's journey ended far too soon.
But we're going to learn from those mistakes. That's what being human is all about.
Welcome to Bajor. It's been a long time, Captain.
Now, I know what you all are probably thinking. Waz, you have to pick a 1 and a 2. You can't just have a tie for the top 2 spots. And to that I say, I want the best of both worlds.
Fire.
The thing is that I like both Picard and Cisco a lot, which is kind of ironic since Sisko hated Picard in DS9's first episode, Emissary.
In the meantime, I will do the job I've been ordered to do to the best of my ability, sir. Dismissed.
For many years, Captain Picard was my favorite Star Trek captain, but after watching and growing to love DS9, I came to really like Sisko as well. There are things that I love in both characters, and there are things that I don't like about both characters. But what's interesting, and a big reason why I put both captains together at the top, is that what annoys me in one captain is made up for in the other. In many ways, they complement each other, and it's a shame we don't get to see these giants together on screen after Emissary. Let's start by talking about Captain Jean-Luc Picard from Star Trek The Next Generation.
I'm a role model.
What I like about Picard is the philosophical part of him, the part that makes a great diplomat, the fact that he can go off on these well-thought-out speeches about Data's rights, about the duties of being a Starfleet officer, about our freedoms. And it helps that Patrick Stewart is a great actor and delivers these speeches wonderfully. Picard has a strong sense of morality. This is a guy you can rely upon to do the right thing, and I appreciate that in him.
The first duty of every Starfleet officer is to the truth, whether it's scientific truth, or historical truth, or personal truth.
However, what annoys me about Picard is how married he is to the Prime Directive. I get it, the Prime Directive is there for a reason, but sometimes it's to the point that it's just an excuse not to get involved.
Beverly, the Prime Directive is not just a set of rules. It is a philosophy.
What the hell does that mean?
Oh, one planet is running a drug trade profiting off a planet of druggies? Well, we can't be involved with that because Prime Directive!
One society profiting at the expense of the other.
That's how you see it.
Oh, Waxana's new boyfriend Timothy has a brilliant mind that could save his planet, but he has to kill himself because he turns 60? Sorry, Waxana, Prime Directive!
The Prime Directive forbids us to interfere with the social order of any planet.
Well, it's your Prime Directive, not mine.
You tell him, girl. Now, consequently, what I can appreciate about Sisko is that he's more willing to disregard the Prime Directive in order to do what needs to be done. Except for that one episode where Miles broke it, but it was season 1.
Another stunt like this, and your wife won't have to complain about the conditions here anymore. Do I make myself clear?
Now, since we're already talking about him, what I love about Captain Benjamin Sisko from Star Trek Deep Space Nine is that the guy is an overall badass, but at the same time, he's a great father to his son. He commands a room. The guy can even make a Jem'Hadar jump. Look at this. A genetically enhanced fighter bred for war was startled by Sisko.
No! Listen.
This is a guy you don't want to cross because he could probably personally throw you through the wormhole. But put Sisko in a scene with his son Jake, and it's so heartwarming. They share a very close bond, helping each other work through the grief of losing Jennifer, Ben's wife, and Jake's mother. Where most Starfleet captains claim they don't have time to start a family, here's Ben raising his son alone and doing a pretty good job. Jake's a good kid. Heck, Jake's idea of rebelling against his dad was teaching Nog how to read so he stays in school. This is as far from juvenile delinquency as you can get. Now, I also need to comment for a moment on Avery Brooks's acting style. Yes, he does tend to overact and chew the scenery a bit. But the thing is, he's so good at it that you just don't care.
So, this is how it all ends. You see, unlike you, I understand history.
However, I'm not a big fan of how morally ambiguous Sisko can be at times. While I can appreciate that he's more willing to chuck the Prime Directive out the window, he does make some questionable decisions. He poisoned a planet's atmosphere just to capture Michael Eddington. Not to mention the episode In the Pale Moonlight, which was basically Ben doing multiple illegal things to bring the Romulans into the Dominion War. And don't get me wrong, it's a great episode and Avery Brooks is wonderful in it. but man, it's a tough watch the first time around.
I can live with it.
And of course, this is where Picard makes up for it. I can see Picard trying to work around a moral dilemma rather than take a more morally ambiguous action. Unless, of course, Prime Directive.
The Prime Directive.
With all this in mind, how could I choose between Picard and Sisko? They're both great captains and deserve to be at the top of my list.
Good luck, Mr. Sisko.
And that is my ranking of the 1966 to 2005 Star Trek captains. But now what about you? How would you rank the Star Trek captains? Do you agree with my rankings, or would you change the captains around a little bit? Who's your favorite Star Trek captain and why? Please leave comments below and discuss. As always, thanks for tuning in to a special Star Trek Day video. If you like what you see, why not give my video a like and subscribe to my channel? Tell your friends! Until next time...
You're all astronauts on some kind of Star Trek.